Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
Welcome to the bonus show. Let's talk about DARPA again. DARPA's been making a lot of headlines with whatever they've been doing recently. Last time we talked about their record-breaking circuit, the fastest ever created. Of course, DARPA is also working with drones. And 7 years ago, DARPA was investing millions of dollars in neuromorphic chips. And that is a chip that tries to mimic our brains, basically, the way our brains work. And they are getting closer to achieving that, and they've been putting these chips in drones. So what they did most recently was they tested a tiny drone with a prototype neuromorphic chip. The drone has 576 silicon neurons that communicate through spikes in electricity that respond to data from optical, ultrasound, and infrared sensors. And the robot, I guess, because of this system, because of this type of chip, doesn't necessarily need to be told what to do by a person to operate. And there's a review here. MIT's technology review explains how the test worked. They said the first time the drone was flown into each room, the unique pattern of incoming sensor data from the walls, furniture, and other objects caused a pattern of electrical activity in the neurons that the chip had never experienced before. That triggered it to report that it was in a new space and also caused the ways its neurons connected to one another to change in a crude mimic of learning in a real brain. Those changes meant that the next time the craft entered the same room, it recognized the room and signaled it as such. And ultimately, they think that these types of chips could be used to, tell the drone to fire at something, or, you name it. Pretty interesting, though.
Very interesting. And there's a lot of interesting literature about the ability of robots to learn. And, there's a lot of writing because on the one hand, robots are supposed to kind of abide by these rules of robotics, and they're not supposed to do things that have not been outlined or that have been asked of them by humans, by their creators. But at the same time, you have robot learning, and really it's just more nuanced. It's robots can be programmed to learn within a certain framework of types of actions and activities. And again, it seems anytime we talk about robots, the fear starts getting into this stuff about the robot turning against humans. But there's really a lot of interesting stuff written about that, and it explains why it's not really the concern that some people have.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned about that.
Oh, good.
But yeah, just so you know, interesting stuff. Drone warfare, it's the future. And I'm sure DARPA will be actively involved in drones for a long time. Here's another robot story. Studying penguins and other animals, but mainly penguins here, can be difficult for researchers because you can't really get close to them. When you do get close to them, they are stressed. And it just changes the way they behave. But using a little remote control device to get closer to them seems to be something that has been working. And you can even disguise it as a baby penguin if you wanted to, and that's what these researchers did.
Don't the penguins realize, though, that it doesn't exactly smell like a real penguin?
Some of them, well, they don't really perceive it as a threat. Some of them were a little curious about it because it might have looked a little awkward. But I'll get into that. Researchers strapped external heart rate monitors to 34 king penguins, and those can be read with remotely. In the first experiment, they sent just a normal little 4-wheel thing, not very big, into the colony. The penguins allowed it to get close. Their heart rates increased less than had people approached. And it, some of them kind of attacked it when it got real close. They were like pecking at it, but it wasn't like a full blown chaos. And then they had the idea of making it look like a baby, and a lot of the penguins just ignored it. Had a normal heart rate when it approached, and at one point they even welcomed it into their little huddle. Some of them poked at it a little. It struck them as odd, uncanny, I guess you could say. But we would be able to see, I think we would be able to observe something, a person, if like a robotic person, I think we would have a much easier time detecting and observing than a penguin would, say, a little rover dressed up as a baby penguin, right?
Yes, of course we would. But I have two thoughts on this. One, our intellect is very different than that of penguins. So we say, well, if a man-made robot, we would of course be able to easily identify compared to a penguin. However, penguins are not identifying robots built by penguins. It's that they're having trouble identifying robots built by humans. So if there were to be a higher, much more, a more intelligent form of life than us, and it created some kind of human robot, then we have to think about the possibility that we might not be able to identify it quite so easily. And that's really the comparison. The comparison shouldn't be humans identifying human-built robots to penguins identifying human-built robots, because that's not really a fair comparison. We unfortunately just don't have, that we know of, a higher form of life that is sending down human-like robots.
Fair enough. There was a similar experiment done with southern elephant seals, and they did not seem to notice at all. So interesting way to get information and study these animals. Good stuff. And here's a third story about what I guess you could call a robot. For the first time ever, we are planning on landing a drone or a probe, I guess you could say, on a comet. This is being called the Rosetta Comet mission. And this, I guess, is just an attempt to kind of find out what they're made of. And scientists believe that on these comets, that these comets are very old, that, they contain materials left over from the formation of the solar system, and it could yield some valuable information. And so this is going to be a historic first, and I hope it goes well. It seems like a lot could go wrong trying to land something small on a moving body like this.
Yeah, there's a lot that could go wrong, but it has been planned so specifically. All of the details have been at least considered, so hopefully it goes well. I don't think some people realize how big this could be, because if we can master this ability, I mean, this is the stuff of science fiction, right? Harvesting the resources of comets and asteroids that just fly by in the solar system. I still am in my mind thinking, what happens to the price, to the value of diamonds in the U.S. when we grab a comet or asteroid, I guess asteroid more likely, that is mostly diamond? Like, what happens at that point? And this is why I maintain my very firm opposition to overpaying for diamond rings.
Yeah, don't do that.
And not only because, but to be clear, also because the price is being kept artificially high by keeping some of the reserves of diamonds just on Earth kind of off market, so they're not figured into the value.
Yeah. Controllers at the European Space Agency's Operations Center in Germany hope to get a positive signal from the robot after the operation on the 12th of November. And it's going to, the probe will attach itself to the comet using harpoons and hooks. At least that's how it's described here. And yeah, this could be huge. I hope it goes well, but you never know. We'll see what happens. I think I'm more curious about, I don't know, not so much what the exact materials and what we find on it is, as opposed to what it can tell us about the formation of the solar system.
Where has the comet been? What areas of the universe has it gone through? All of that type of stuff.
Could be pretty interesting. So that is something to watch as well.
Why don't that many people care about this stuff? I mean, a lot of people do. A lot of people do, but it just doesn't have the same appeal that some of the more tabloid stories do.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about the Mars missions, I mean, that would be a lot more interesting to people, and understandably, I mean, if you are using your imagination, you can you can imagine a lot more when talking about Mars colonies and missions to manned missions to other planets than a little probe landing on a comet. But I'm sure that the scientists involved are probably nerding out over this pretty hardcore, and it's got
understandably so.
Oh, of course, yeah. This is huge, and so great stuff there as well. Yeah, Dave, anything to add?
The calendars, they are still available. I won't pick it up. People here know what it looks like. davidpakman.com/calendar members15. The password is Hatriot15. Order your calendars. We're shipping these out. It's happening. Don't miss out on it.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.